Lead me to some soul today. Oh, teach me, Lord, just what to
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Leading Others to Christ. This is episode number 72. And if you're listening but not watching, you might say, hey, I don't recognize that voice. That's not Dan Barker. Well, it's not Dan Barker. This is Matt Maudlin. And normally I'm behind the scenes. Today, I get the privilege of facilitating the conversation. You know, it's been some time since we have recorded an episode of Leading Others to Christ, and there's some great reasons for that. So today, we've decided that we're going to take an opportunity to do something a little bit different, and I want to interview Dan and let him tell exactly what's been going on over these last 3 months, some of the changes that have been happening. Like I said, they've all been great, and let you hear some of the stories. The thing that you'll find most compelling, I promise you, is how this little old podcast that started as a COVID project has turned into something more than I think Dan or I could have ever imagined. And so I'm so excited for you to hear Dan's stories. And for those of you who don't know Dan Barker, you're going to have an opportunity to hear more about him and his story today. So welcome, Dan. Good to have you on the program.
Well, thanks, Matt. You did that real well. Maybe we need to change things around. If I could go in the background, I would. If I knew the technical stuff. But hey, great to see you again, brother. And
Great to see you
looking
as well.
looking forward to this episode and kind of bringing everybody up to speed of what's been going on.
Yeah, well, why don't we just jump right in? I'm sure people have been asking you, why haven't you shot some episodes for a while? I know people have been asking me, and obviously there's a story behind it. And maybe we just jump right into that. Maybe you just go ahead and start updating everybody on what's going on with you.
All right. Well, you might have to stop me because I'm an old guy. I tend to ramble sometimes. But uh, go back a few months ago, and because, as you say, because of the podcast, I had a phone call one day and from an old friend, and actually, he and his wife were students at Florida College when I was the basketball coach down there. Back, to tell you how long it's been, 69 to 74, and so it was fun reconnecting with them as Paul and Deborah Cavender, and they had listened to one of the podcasts, and they were talking and said, "Well, why don't we call Coach Barker and can reconnect with him here a little bit?" And then they ended up inviting me to the leadership thing that they do every year, and they've been doing it for 18, 20 years. I'm not sure, but they get the elders and their wives and deacons, their wives, and the group leaders and teachers, and just kind of evaluate what they've been doing and what they're going to do for the upcoming year. And that was really good. I had never seen anything quite like that. And Gay and I appreciated being included. And then they asked me to make a presentation, and I told them of what we're trying to do and with the podcast and various things. And then they asked me to come down and do the weekend workshop that I do. And for those that don't know that, we haven't talked about this very much on the podcast, but I've been doing this for a long time, and I've called it a weekend seminar or evangelism seminar and or evangelism workshop. And what I do is I come in and for those that want to participate in this, to do a Friday night and Saturday session and take them through the study that I do. It's called The Way, and show Matt, you're very familiar with it, and to show the congregation things that been successful that we've done over the years on how to invite people to services, how to set up studies, and then a study that they could use. There's multiple studies. You have to teach the truth, you have to teach the gospel, but there are multiple tools that are out there. But this happens to be one that we put together, a long time ago. And but anyway, so we came down and did that for them, and then that went real well. And then the next thing, they wanted to meet and said, "Would you and Gay consider coming down here, moving to Alabama, and working with us on evangelism?" And that's what we didn't see that coming. That was a total surprise. And then, of course, had to talk to our family about it. If we were going to move, they're all in Lexington, Kentucky. They would like to see us move back there, and then talk to the congregation at Creekside there in Franklin. And but we had blessings from the family and also from the church there, and so here we are. And I think this is our 7th week, but just the time here that we've been away from doing the podcast has been because of the travel time that we were back and forth down here 3 different occasions, and then the move, and then you also moved, and so we've had a lot of things going on, but now we're settled down a little bit, and I still have boxes I haven't gotten into yet. Do you have boxes, Matt? Have you still?
Oh, I'm inundated with boxes everywhere. Yes.
But anyway, I guess that's going to take a while. But moving's hard. I mean, it'd been 10 years since we moved before, but anyway, but we're doing real well, and it's been fun getting to know the challenge. We could talk about that for a while, getting to know everybody here. So many new people, the names, the new faces, and all the get-togethers and all the different things that we're trying to do. And I'll go ahead and do this real quickly. Is that we started, and those of you that know me know we've done this in different places where we've been. We call it Invite Sunday for a lack of a better term. And it's a gospel meeting. I'll say it this way: it's like having a gospel meeting, but having it year long. And somebody might hear that and go, "What? What?" Instead of having a weekend, we've gone from 7 days or 2-week meetings down to 7 days, down to 3 days now. And but anyway, the idea is that pick a theme and then invite and encourage everybody in the congregation to invite family and friends to come and hear a special lesson that's pre-announced, so they know what's going to be talked about. But the lessons are designed for those of our family and friends that are not Christians, and give them the opportunity to come and worship with Christians, to sing with us, to hear a lesson and get to know other people. And we started that at the end of last month, and it just went over just extremely well. And in fact, we've got the one for this month is coming up. Today's Friday, and it'll be this coming Sunday. So we've had people really trying to invite family and friends to come, and we've had some really good stories, and we have some people that have committed to come this weekend. So Lord willing, that happens, and Lord willing, that turns into studies, that turns into people seeing the truth, and Lord willing, where they will obey. And we give God the glory for all of this. But so Matt, it's that's saying it real fast, but the day-to-day activity is a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of patience, and me getting to know the group here and them getting to know Gay and I. And so far it's gone, it couldn't have gone better. So we're thankful for that.
Well, I appreciate how you put all that together. And yeah, it does seem overwhelming. I know moving is overwhelming, so it does make sense why the 3 months went by. I wanted to go back to a point that you had made, or part of the discussion in your explanation about how you engaged with this group of Christians in Alabama. Obviously, it was an early relationship that you had that was rekindled because of the podcast. He was listening to the podcast. But the thing I wanted to ask you about was, it sounded like that this group of Christians really had a heart for improving what they've been doing in regards to leading others to Christ. And they had identified you as somebody who could help them with that. I thought maybe it makes sense to share a little bit about the group of Christians there. Talk about the makeup of them, and what was it that you think was happening? Because so much of our conversation that we've been having is been around the idea of so many churches not really understanding and doing what that we know they're commanded to do in regards to leading others to Christ. And we've been identifying and been encouraged by it. So many people across the country who've had a heart for this, and we want to tell their story. And we wanted to have them share what are they doing and why are they so passionate, because we felt like it had been not as common as we think it should. But there's
Right.
something about this group of Christians down there who had a heart for this and wanted to get better. Maybe you share a little bit about them and kind of some of the things that have been going on. And you said you've been meeting with people. Maybe share a little bit of how that's been going too.
All right. Yeah, that's a great question. The group, I'm not sure, how long they've been here. I want to say maybe, I'm not sure, 50 years, maybe even longer, but so don't hold me to that. But the group itself, they have 5 elders. There's 10 or 12 deacons. They're in the process right now of appointing some new deacons. And so the leadership is really strong. I've been really impressed with them. They're solid guys. And just to give you an example, for that leadership meeting that they invited us to, Brad Cavender, which is Paul Cavender's brother, they're both elders. And but he presented a lesson while we were here of what if. It'd be like, you know how I like the what if phrase, but of trying to challenge the Vestavia Church of Christ to look like the church at Antioch. And I just thought that was so good, and challenging the group to go in and say, okay, what was that church like? And of course, that was the first one that we read about in the New Testament that had those that were past Jews and past Gentiles that came together and worshiped together. And you see Paul spending a lot of time there, and Barnabas. You see the church at Antioch so involved in evangelism, sending Paul and Barnabas and others out to do the work. And so I think it gets back to they understand the leadership here. They understand, and they're wanting to do things that they think could help, and look at things maybe through different eyes or different approaches. And they've had some quality people here preaching in the past. And Zach Lee is currently here as the minister, and just an excellent young man. In fact, you know him, Matt. He used to preach at Traders Point there in Indiana, where you worship.
Yes.
Gay and I knew his mom and dad. In fact, I went to, we stayed with them, and I did a workshop for them when he was preaching up, when Jimmy Lee was preaching up in Ohio. And, but he and I, we always called each other roomie, because we were roommates together in Sierra Leone in Africa. And so we even saw things that worked there, and how we engaged with each other and the others that went with us. So I guess it's like just a lot of things came together. But Zach, his attitude is just very, very good. Is the preacher, the elders, the deacons, everybody's wanting to do this. Everybody's wanting to learn. And it's like any group, you can't say everybody, but the leadership for sure. And I've seen that, and not to be negative, but I've seen that in some places where an attempt can be made to try to get the group involved in evangelism again. But the leadership, for whatever reason, they're just not interested. And they're so bogged down in doing other things. And I'm afraid this has come up in some of our episodes. In some places, congregations, they've lost their focus, and they're all internally focused, and they're not outwardly focused in some cases at all. And so that's a long answer to your question, but that's what I see, and that's why we made the decision to move here, is that the attitude is right. And a lot of people, you know how I like to use the phrase "celebrate the sowing." And there's a lot of people that are already doing that. We've got stories, and maybe we can look at it another time, of people that are starting to invite family and friends when perhaps they have never done that, or it's been a long time, and they're seeing positive results. And we say that's why the celebrate the sowing is whether somebody accepts our invitation to come and worship, accept our invitation to study. If they decline, we understand. Not everybody not everybody listened to Jesus, did they? Not everybody liked the words that Jesus had to say. In fact, they disliked it so much they killed him. But we just try to encourage everybody. Our role is to sow the seed. That's our responsibility. God will give the increase. And but again, back to you said why here, and I think that the timing is just right. And they're wanting to change the culture, if you will, and where there's more of this conversation going on. So we're anxious to reach out to other congregations that are in this area. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of congregations here, and a lot of people that we're looking forward to meeting and sharing some of these things with as time goes on.
Yeah. Well, I have had the opportunity to share the story of you making this transition. Because I've had so many people who've said, "Hey, tell me again when Creekside meets. I want to go see Dan." Or, I'm like, "Well, he's not there anymore. Let me tell you the story. It's pretty exciting." But then the comment that I usually get 9 times out of 10 as a follow-up is, "Oh, that's interesting. So what does this mean for the podcast? And what does this mean for the work that you guys have been doing relative to the leading others to Christ work and the initiative and all the projects that you've been doing? How does that relate to that?" And maybe it would make sense to share a little bit about how the church there is willing to kind of work through this with you and kind of support this effort as well.
Well, again, another great question. And it was part of the reason that Gay and I decided to come, is because things like this came up in my meeting with the elders. We really like your podcast and we want you to continue it. In fact, maybe you could make your office. In fact, that's where I'm sitting. One of the elders said, "Make that your studio." So I'm sitting here in my new office right now at the church building, and so just that's why I say the attitude is so positive. They want you and I want to keep doing the podcast, and they want us to do that as well. Even to the point, talk to them, and they've heard it in the podcast. We've got so many new listeners here, Matt, because the ones that weren't familiar with the podcast, they've started listening here and through encouragement from the elders and Zach and in the bulletin that they publish. But the whole thing about so many of the congregations are shrinking. We talked about the fact, and we brought this up, some of the numbers that are out there. There's 2 conservative congregations that are closing a month. I talked to a fellow the other day that's in Illinois, and there's 15 people in the congregation. And he said, we have 4, just listen to this. We have 4 men. 2 of them are in their mid 80s. Another one is 78. Another one is 76. And we don't know what to do. And there's so many congregations out there. So we've talked about this in our podcast about being able to go and do the weekends and do some weekend meetings, if you will, in talking about this and giving them some ideas on how they could, get on fire again there in their community. And the elders have even have encouraged me with that they're going to help, with that, encourage me to do that as many times as I can to go to. So there's going to be some traveling that's going to be involved in this. And we're not going to be going overseas per se, but we're going to be going to places here in the States, which I think is much needed. So again, it gets back to that, Matt, of just the positive attitude that's here. So the podcast will continue to go. I've got over 200 names on my list of people to reach out to, and every day, if I'm not asking somebody's coming to me with a name and saying, "You need to call so and so," and so my list continues to grow. And that's exciting, isn't it, Matt? So more and more people are, are hearing about it, and are starting to seriously contemplate, how are we looking at things like this? How are we involved in evangelism? And that description, some are saying that description I've heard you talk about, you're describing us. and we're not talking about it. And we have people that have moved away. We have people that have passed away. The number of funerals far exceed the number of baptisms. And just think what that's going to look like going down the road. So again, a lot of energy that's here. But yeah, to your question, the podcast's going to keep going. Lord willing, yeah, we're going to keep it going. And maybe at one time there, remember we were doing more than one a week, Matt. We might even have to get back to that to try to catch up on some of these. But that's we'll just have to do the best we can there. But
no, that's super exciting. And one thing I want to make sure that everybody understands, even though that you and I have not been recording the podcast over the last 3 months, that doesn't mean that we haven't been moving some other things forward, right? We so much of what this podcast has been able to unlock for us and for others has begun to come to fruition. And you spoke about it earlier. One of the things is our understanding and recognition that there are so many congregations out there that really do not feel equipped, and they need help getting equipped. And there's an opportunity for leading others to Christ, for us to help them get equipped. But also, we've been working on some tools that we think not only can help those congregations, but can help all congregations for that matter. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think we probably don't have time to kind of get into complete detail with this, but one of them you kind of already alluded to was this idea of being able to have somewhat of a weekend series, a weekend workshop, not sure what to call it yet, but maybe explain at a very high level that. And I don't know, we've got a couple of other tools that we've been working on as well. Maybe we share a little of that. What do you think?
I don't think there's any maybe. I think we should. Yeah. It's been, I don't know. I need to look at my calendar. Maybe Matt, you remember how long ago did we meet? How many years ago was it?
Oh, wow. We met, we were both involved in another nonprofit initiative. Wow. I don't know, 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 years ago, maybe. I can't.
Maybe longer than that. But what's been so exciting with Matt, and of course with his marketing background, and I call him the tech guy all the time, but he understands these things. And so I remember the first time he'd seen the study that I do a long time ago. He's been involved with the congregation there at Traders Point Church of Christ there in Indiana, we did a workshop together there. He's followed that up with classes with those in the congregation. And I remember, though, one time I was talking to him and I said, Matt, do you think, could we do a podcast? I've never done that. Do you know anything about doing a podcast? Well, here we are, 72 episodes later. And then so many things have come out of this. And it wasn't that long ago. I don't know exactly, maybe a year ago, but I forget. And I said, we were talking, and I said, well, what about, have you ever done an app? Have you ever done an app? You'd see apps all over the place now. And what if and you said, well, yeah, you do apps all the time and you have an app team. Can I share this?
Absolutely.
I said, you have an app team. And I had met your people, and I said, is that your app team? He said, no, my app team is in India. And I went, India? Yeah, India. And anyway, so make a long story short, what we've done is that, and this is so exciting, is that we have been able to film the study that I do. I guess I kid about it all the time. That the only problem with it is the old guy that's doing it. I mean, you get to see me. Probably needs to be a young guy that's doing the teaching. But there was a family there in Indiana that let us use their home. And can I mention the ones that were involved in filming?
Sure.
All right. A lot of you are familiar with a nonprofit called Appian Media, and they're based there in Indiana. And one of their co-founders, Stuart Peck, came and filmed us doing the study. and brought in with you know how high tech they are. I mean, they're a documentary company, and in fact, they won an award in Hollywood last year. I think they won, it's like the second best documentary in that part of the Hollywood ceremony, if you will. So they're really, really good. And they've just launched their, what was the name of coming out of it? No, what, it's Egypt. What's the name of it?
Yeah, so I've been working with that group as well, and they just received all the funding they needed to raise to be able to go and shoot their next documentary. Actually, two projects out of Egypt. So they're going to they leave in just a few weeks. Actually, they're going to go to Egypt and they're going to follow along one of the thought to be tracks that the Israelites took to the Promised Land, and we're going to get to see that firsthand, and we're going to tell that story. And then they have a children's version that is going to be Lessons from the Land, the Exodus. And so they raised the funds to actually do both projects while they're over there, and they're getting ready to leave. So Stuart was very gracious with his time. They are super busy, but it just changed the dynamic of, being able to have this study professionally shot, because we didn't want people to pay attention to necessarily the production value, which, if you or I were trying to do this, it would be prohibitive to that. But really pay attention to what's being talked about, right, in the study.
Right.
And that's what's so exciting. So yeah, continue.
Well, and again, all of this has come together. Started a long time ago, really, but just with the COVID stuff that we went through, and starting the podcast and learning how to do this and trying to find people to interview, and which is not the easiest thing to do, right? And to try to find people that genuinely understand what we're passionate about here is leading others to Christ, and find out how they're doing it and where they're doing it and all the things that we've done there and we're going to continue to do. But I remember back when I was younger, and some of the people will remember this, a guy by the name of Jules Miller. And he came up with the idea of putting a Bible study on a film, and and he published that and put it out there, and a lot of people were led to Christ, and some people watching this may not have liked the Jules Miller film strips. We understand that some of you are probably not going to like what we've done, but it just made me think of of using the technology that's out there, of how we can reach out to other people. And so when I brought this up, Matt, to you, it all started kind of coming together, and with Stuart filming it, and now we're close to launching it here, hopefully by the end of this month, which is just a few days away. And but the whole idea with this, just to touch on it real quick, would be like, Matt, where I could let's say that you weren't familiar with this, but we're friends, maybe we're co-workers, or we play golf together. But I know you're interested in spiritual things, but I also know that you're not following the gospel of Christ. And I say, Matt, I know you're interested in spiritual things, aren't you? Aren't you? Are you, Matt?
Yes.
Role play with me here.
I will do that. Okay. Yes, I am.
Well, I know you are, and I am too. And recently, I saw a study, an app that I saw online that I think you would really enjoy. In fact, would you do me a favor?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Would you give me permission to send this to you? And I can just send it to you. It's a real simple process, and you'll see it pop up there on your phone. And then you could watch the first episode, or first couple of episodes there of the study, and then you could let me know what you think. Is that fair enough? Would you give me permission to do that?
Yeah.
All right. And it's going to be a script, something like that. But the idea is that because so many people don't get involved in evangelism because of fear, the fear factor. And I'm afraid of what questions Matt might ask me, or I'm afraid what might happen if I go to his apartment or go to his house or whatever. And Satan's done a really good job of keeping us hiding behind I'm going to say it this way, hiding behind the walls of our church building, hiding inside of it, if you will. But So the whole idea with this is that I would be able to send Matt an invitation to the study and start introducing things to him. Number one, he says I can send it to him. It's going to be up to him whether he actually looks at it and opens it up and actually views the study, goes through it. But we're going to be able to have the analytics to be able to track that. I'll be able to see whether Matt opened it up and see how far he is and how far he's going along in the study. And but anyway, just to be able to think about doing that, of how many friends do I have? How many people do I know that are not Christians that I could potentially look at my phone and see how many contacts I've got on here, and to start thinking about sending this app to them. And it just gets crazy exciting. Just look at if an individual could invite 10 people. If you had 50 people in a congregation and all of them if they all invited one, that's 50 invites to a Bible study. And that's maybe never been done. 50 have never been invited to a Bible study in the history of that congregation. Or just, you get me going on this, but the idea is that to be able to have a tool that people could send to family and friends, and it's going to be wherever they would be, wherever they are in the country, and we're going to be able to do it eventually wherever they would be in the world, to be able to share the gospel of Christ. So, Matt, you want to talk about celebrating the sowing?
Yeah, for
Oh
sure.
my, oh my. So, what are some things there? I kind of did that kind of quickly. What are some things that I left out there that you would have added?
Yeah, so I think you did a great job of explaining what we think that this is going to offer. And again, as Dan said, I mean, there's many great tools out there. We're not thinking that this is the tool to do this. This is another option, and it's going to be one that I think a lot of people will enjoy. Being able to identify the people in your contacts of your phone. Think about that. So many of us, I think, struggle to understand who is it that we could reach out to that we know. We tend to forget people. And the simplest thing to do is to open up the contacts on your phone and scroll through it. You will be reminded of people that you forgot.
Yes.
You will remember people you forgot that you have a relationship with. And with this app, it's going to be so easy just to send them a text message. Just right inside the app, you can access all your contacts and you can choose which people, and you can just send them a text to invite them to download this app. And you get to keep track of who you've invited. That's inside of the app. And it's all phone number based. So when you text somebody, it knows that person's phone number. When they sign up, when they download the app and sign up, it asks them for their phone number. And when the two connect, it lets you know, hey, the person that you invited has now started the study. They downloaded the app. One of the things that we talked about, and you mentioned it, Dan, celebrating the sowing, we wanted to make sure that this was a part of this app, was how do we help people celebrate the sowing? And we do that through analytics. And so one of the features inside of the app is your ability to keep track of how many people you've invited. That's I think very encouraging for people to do that. Another feature of this is for people to come together as a group and work on this and encourage one another together. So part of how we envision this is you could have just a small group of Christians who want to create a group and continue to encourage and track how many people they've collectively invited. We think a church might find this very helpful to have maybe somebody in their congregation who is able technically to kind of get all this set up and invite people to be a part of this group. And then they as a church can track how many people have they invited and how many people that they've invited have taken the study. It just seems so encouraging for people to be able to have a tool that puts a very effective study in front of those that they know. And that's why we're super excited about it. We're actually, the app, we're going to call it The Way. And that's the name of the study that we've been using. And that's going to be the name of the app. And Very soon, you'll be able to download it from the various app stores, and you'll be able to go through the study yourself. One of the neat things about it is if you are a person that likes to study in person, you're going to be able to take these individual videos and you will be able to cast them to a television, to a internet enabled television that might be in the room with you, and you could be watching those collectively. In addition, we've got the ability for some type of administrator, for example, of your group. So if I've invited Dan, let's say, and Dan asks me a question inside of our chat feature, which I didn't mention, that I'm not comfortable with, there is an individual that can be accessible for our entire group that could be answering questions as well. And so there shouldn't be any hindrance to me reaching out and sharing something like this text message with somebody that I have a relationship with. We hopefully have alleviated some of those challenges that people have in just sharing the gospel and just making it super easy and giving people the opportunity to celebrate the sowing. So if you can't tell, we're super excited about.
Well, we are, and well said there. And just to reemphasize, we're taking the fear factor out, even to the point, like you say, if I invite you, I don't have to worry about what to say. It's built in. The script is built in, right?
Yes.
I might put in there, I'm not sure yet how it's going to read it. I might say, "Hey, Matt, this is Dan," and then the script. Here we go. But so, like you say, take the fear factor out, and then be able to watch people and track what's going on. It's a whole lot easier than I remember when that Jules Miller thing came out. I was so excited. I ran and bought a projector. It wasn't cheap, but I bought the projector in the reel-to-reel, and then you had to buy, the screen that you had to go into the house and set it up and do the reel-to-reel. But this is going to be so much easier. And what's exciting, so many things exciting about it, but we're going to be able to modify and change this as we go forward. It's not like it's in stone once it's done. We can, right, Matt? With technology, we'll be. I mean, it's almost like, seems like it's not every week, but it seems like every time I talk to Matt, he'll say, "Well, let me tell you what else I've learned. Have you heard about this tool?" And it's just constantly changing. And evidently, the group and it still blows me away that we've got people in India, and I want to figure out somehow how to meet those folks at some time. But they're staying on top of all the technology as well. So we're going to have, and then future working together with Appian Media. There's just going to be a lot of things that are going to come, I think, out of this. There's going to be people out there that are doing other things technology-wise, and they're going to be calling and saying, "Matt, have you and Dan considered doing this? Or what about, And so the idea is, I think, this is just going to jumpstart a bunch of invites, a bunch of studies, a bunch of new concepts. So it's just really exciting. And you know what? With everything out there in our world today, we need some positive things to think about and focus on. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, no, for sure. For sure. Well, we've gone, there wasn't me in the background saying we've got 5 minutes left. We've gone a lot longer, but hey, it's been 3 months since we've done anything
there you go.
Like this. And we had a lot to share, and we have a lot more to share as well. But the one thing the bow I want to put on this is we've shared a couple of things here relevant to just kind of wrapping this up. One is the changes that have been happening for you, and they've been so positive, and so thankful for the hearts of those Christians in Vestavia who are wanting to do more and see you as a positive help to that. I'm so excited for you and for Gay and for all that work. I think that's tremendous. We've also talked about their willingness to allow you to go out into other congregations. As we said, there are congregations who are struggling because they just don't feel equipped. And there's things that we can be doing to help equip them. And so I want to mention that. And again, we talked about the app. The app is something that's coming really soon. And so we've not really done this much. I want to do this if it's okay with you. Otherwise, I'll just cut this out when I edit it. But we have an email address that we don't send out very often, or we don't mention very often. It's info@ leadingothers-to-Christ.org. And I'll put it at the bottom. If you're watching this video, I'll put it at the bottom. It's info@leadingothers-to-Christ.org. So if we've shared something here today, like the opportunity for someone like Dan to go into your congregation and kind of help equip, if you're interested in learning more about the app or anything else that we have shared here, we would love to hear from you. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
in fact, I think this is the first time we've publicly put that out there. So
Could be.
okay.
Yes. So info@leadingothers-to-Christ.org. We would love to hear from anybody who has feedback, ideas, thoughts, wants to engage. We just love to hear what you think. And we're so thankful for those who choose to listen. And we ask you continue to share with others. I'm constantly excited to hear those who have found it and have been referred to it. And I'm also excited to hear people who hadn't heard of it and are excited to go listen. And so I'm always shocked by people who've not, they have friends who said, I listen to it all the time, but my friends never heard of it. And they share it with them and they're excited to listen to them as well. So please continue to share these podcasts with others that you know will find help and benefit from these. And so very grateful for you, Dan, and your heart for this and just allowing me to be a part of this program, this journey.
Well, we couldn't have done all of this without Matt. So thank you, brother, for that. And I want to just the ones that are still listening. I have to do this. I have to throw the challenge out there. We were talking about your phone and the contacts. I want to challenge you to go ahead and let's do the number 10. I want you to start making a list of 10 people that you know. Do what Matt said. Look at your phone, and you will be surprised how many folks are on there that are not Christians, that need to hear the gospel. And how exciting could it be that you could have some role, play some part in leading one of your family or friends to Christ? I mean, I can't, unless you've done that, you can't appreciate or understand how exciting that is, and to realize, I mean, that's why Jesus came, to seek and save the lost. That was the charge he gave us, to go out and take this gospel to everybody in the world and preach. And if we can just think about those that are in our world, but start thinking and write their names down. There's something about writing it down. And I want to encourage you to do this. Start praying for them. Start praying that, and in your prayer, use their name, and start praying that they would be receptive to when this app comes out, that they would accept your invite, if you will, to look and go through this study. And I just think a lot of things, the power of prayer is amazing. And I love that Ephesians 3:20, where Paul, and I'll paraphrase this, but he's talking about prayer, and that God can do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. Now you stop and think about that statement. And so God wants everyone to be saved. Everyone's not going to be saved because they haven't heard the gospel, because perhaps their friends, you remember the song, Matt, You Never Mention Him to Me?
Yeah.
Yes. And it gets real emotional when you start thinking about this. And perhaps this can help get us on fire again of having something that we can use, that we have confidence in, that we can get myself individually involved in doing this, my family, and then our congregations. It could be just so exciting. So thanks, everybody, for listening to us ramble on here today.
Yeah. No, it's been exciting to kind of reinvigorate our podcast here, and we're excited to jump into this again. Like Dan said, there's so many more people that we have to interview, and I know he's going to begin to do that, and we're going to begin recording these again. And so thankful for all you who are listening. And Dan, thanks again. Good to see you again, and thank you for all you do.
I've got one other thought. Would this be okay, Matt? I just had this thought, and you can cut it out like you say if we don't want to use it. But what if somebody, we gave them the email address, right? What if somebody out there said, I know somebody that Dan and Matt need to interview? Could they do that? Could they send that?
That's a great use of that email address. If there's
Yeah,
somebody out there that you know we need to hear from. And again, we're trying to reach those Christians who have a heart for evangelism. We want to share the story of, why do they have the heart for this? What are they doing to lead others to Christ? Because we think that it will help all of us do a better job of that. So that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think, if we just got one or two, that'd be great. So, but anyway, thanks again, Matt. Great to see you. And we got to get back to work, man.
Yep, absolutely. Lots of work to do. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Matt.
Who pray, melt my heart and fill my life. Give me one soul today.